This video is for people that experience really heightened levels of anxiety, that it's really hard to cope, to get through the day and to feel like you can. So often people will feel completely frozen by anxiety. So this is a breathing technique that I'd like to take you into to help you to self-regulate. And self-regulation doesn't mean you have to be all stern. I actually want you to feel a sense of lightness as we do this breathing, so that you're really coming into a feeling of what it's like to be you. The you that's not doing the self-regulating exercise. The you that feels like yourself, that feels you're who you are. Now, one of the best ways that I've ever found to do this is to come into breath of joy. It's one of my favorite breathing techniques. You can do this in any seated position. You could be seated in a chair. You could be seated with your legs straight in front, but here it is. We're going to do 27 repetitions on this, and we start like this. I'll demonstrate the posture. The elbows are out to the side, and you're making fists slightly, just lightly, and you take an in-breath, and then you throw the arms up. So you inhale, just like that, that's it. And then you bring the arms down. So it's an in-breath, just like that. So that was 5 pumps. It's very rapid, and the feeling of the exhale is like you're throwing the air out, and you're doing a strong Pillsbury dough poke of the belly here to draw the abdominal wall back and in. So enjoy this. We'll go for 27 pumps, and then we'll take 3 breaths in between. Here we go, breathing in. Good, and then relax. Just let your arms rest, and you might have the legs in front, and you let the arms rest. Now, in between, we're going to do one more round. You do 3 regular breaths. So take in 3 full expanding breaths. The breathing is always in and out through the nose, but it's natural. So you don't need to just be very, very fluid in an in and out flow of the breath, in and out of the nostrils. We breathe here because it's a superior way to connect to the center of the brain. So the breathing in and out through the nose is a little better than breathing in through the mouth. So you can keep that in mind. Notice if you're mouth breathing, if you have anxiety, and see if you can return to the nose breathing. Okay, we'll do another set, 27 pumps. Here we go. Now, you can finish the video there if you just needed the breathing exercise. If I could help, I'd like to say a little bit more. I have many people in my life that have borderline personality disorder. I belong to an organization where I'm a peer support worker, where I help people that have a loved one with borderline personality disorder in their life. Borderline, as it's often referred to, is an emotional exceptionality that takes you out of perceiving reality as it is. It's like you can't be in the world and feel like what you are, because you don't know what you are. You feel like you have to read the world for cues as to be what you're supposed to be in that moment. Meaning if somebody gives you just even like a look, you feel like you did something wrong. It's like a self-fulfilling guilt that plays out and attracts meanness, if you will. So that's one of the ways that I've seen it play out for the people in my life. I don't have borderline technically, and I have an ability to sensitively feel the world. And one thing that I find about that is I have to really be careful, because otherwise I'm open prey for somebody's mean comment or a look or something like that. It's fantastic to be very alive, to be very awake, to be very sensitized to the world, or what people would call too sensitive. But I sense actually it's when you're this aware and awake and sensitive, there is an empathic ability that you feel things more than people that are numb, or people that are really not awake and noticing the beauty in the world, or the connectedness, or the magic, or how hard things are. So some people might be just going through their day, coasting, and it's a normal day for them, that they don't perhaps see a lot of the subtle aspects of life that somebody that is very awake senses. And I'm going to say awake as opposed to sensitive, because sensitive has often meant for people identify as being too sensitive, which there's no such thing as. So really what we are is we're feeling the world more. So when you feel the world more, there's also the ability to take in more than is healthy for you. And that could mean, again, negative energy, so to speak. And that becomes like a vampire, and it's taking away your energy. So what I've started to hone, and its ability that's been going on for a long time, is I notice when I try to respond to that energy. So let's say somebody just gives me, like they did yesterday, like they were upset because I was driving my car and they rode their bike across an area they weren't supposed to, and I was turning, and they're like this. And I noticed that I could feel myself feeling like, well, I was following the light, like I felt a reaction. And then I noticed that's not worth it. Like there's nothing to do there. That person's upset, I'm driving, nothing's changed. I'm driving, I'm still driving. Nothing has to change. So I've noticed when I can feel my energy leave into into a stressor, and it feels like something is coming out of me. It feels like I'm moving my energy into something that I don't want to. So the second before that person gave me the, upset arm, I'm feeling like myself driving. So now I've noticed that I'm not willing to move my energy out to those stressful, frustrations in the world. And it does feel like the energy is leaving. So it feels to me like a vector, a push out, like, that's happening. And that starts to become more and more honed in us. If you can notice when you react to the world in a way that you think you have to, And that's very different from being in the world. When you're being in the world, there aren't rules that you can follow because they don't make sense to you. There's ways that you know to live that others might think are bizarre or weird or too sensitive, and they feel true for you. And that is how it feels to be awake, is there's the risk that other people won't understand you. And then you stay in that place where you still feel like yourself, even though no one understands. And it takes a very committed pause to do that. So that, for example, I was talking with somebody borderline, and the phone, somehow we got disconnected. And she almost went into an anxiety attack. Like she really escalated. She thought, what did I do wrong? Did I press a button? She was feeling like it was her fault. And that place where you start to feel like something's your fault, or you feel bad, or you feel like, that's the place where you pause, because your whole physiology is starting to escalate. So you de-escalate by pausing, noticing that what is going on inside the brain is creating an escalation. And that's it. You catch that moment where you pause, and then you stay there, and you let the discomfort that could have occurred or is attempting to occur, or to convince you that you've got to be upset, or you're in big trouble, or whatever the nasty place is that's trying to inflate is bringing you. And you feel that place, and you pause, and you pause, and you pause. And it's not easy. And then it gets easier and easier and easier and easier and easier. And soon it's less possible to get hooked by the stress that before was so stressful. And then pretty soon, all stressors, all the things that you thought were bad or that you had meant something about you don't see them anymore. They become less and less in your field of awareness. And that is a practice. And I in no way want to sit here and say, just pause. It's really challenging. It's like not reaching for a cookie when you're on a gluten-free diet. It's like, God. And it's so convincing that we need to respond to that stress. So please come into a pause. Do a breath. The breathing always helps. Always helps. Come into breathing so that you can disband from that escalation that's trying to take you into an anxiety feeling. And then stay there and do whatever it takes to stay there, to stay in that pause. And you can do it. I've done it, and I'm one of the most anxious people I've ever met. So come into that feeling of pause. It's just like pausing anything else on your phone when you're listening to music. Pause. Maybe see the 2 bars. Pause. And practice and practice and practice. It's so worth it. You can practice at stoplights when you're standing there waiting for the light or in the car. Just practice. What does it feel like to pause? Where any thoughts that are arising fall and they land. And I'm right there. And I can feel my soul. And I can't feel the stress. You can do it. Thanks for listening.